Audio Jungle.
Okay, let us start the class today. The first is we need to understand what are the subjects important for prelims. So in this case, if we have analyzed the last 2011 to 2019 question papers, why we took the 2011 as a cutoff date? Because that's the time when the pattern of the exam has changed. So in this context, the polity questions 17%, but if you see most of the questions which are coming are from economy. And if I see economy subject, I will put it as this way. So meanings or definitions is the most prominent area which has been asked for. And the next is cause and effect questions. What do I mean by cause and effect question? If I put it as this way, if growth increases, what is its impact on inflation? If inflation increases, what is the net benefit out of interest rates? So, if a saving is there in the bank, if inflation increases, the returns on that saving increases or decreases. Like these questions, which I am calling them as cause and effect questions. So, the meaning questions means so recapitalization is seen recently in the context of the banks in India. So, what does this recapitalization mean? And they will give you choices below that. So, these are called meaning or definition based question. And the next is trends and patterns is the another thing which is there. So in the last 10 years, the economy or gross savings rate in India is growing steadily. If they make certain statement like this, then obviously growing steadily is wrong. So trends and patterns means various economic variables how they are changing over years, over quarters in a particular year. So these we need to understand. So we have questions related to trends and patterns, cause and effect, and then definition or meaning. And after this, in the economy itself, we have other kinds of questions, which I can put it as this way. Certain economic institutions are there, international economic institutions, especially World Bank, IMF. So this World Bank and IMF, so what the reports they give, like that, World Economic Forum, so WTO, what all the reports they give, and where the recent, if any summits have happened, where did they happen in the context of WTO? What are the new terminologies that have come up in that context? And certain indices and reports, which index is given by which organization? Indices and reports are the most important thing. So like this, and anyhow, we have our standard concepts, repo rate, reverse repo rate, etc. in the case of monetary policy, fiscal deficit, and fiscal policy, revenues, expenditure chart. And as we go to the balance of payments, current account, capital account, what are the components of that, how their present status is, and what is the state of economy is. These kind of questions, anyhow, they are being asked for. So concept based question and state of the economy based question. So current account deficit, how much is that? These kind of questions are being asked in the economy. So one strong area where around 20 questions on an average are coming is related to economy. So economy we have to thoroughly focus upon. And the next, the standard textbook which we are referring for economy is Sriram textbook which we are depending upon. And added to that, we have prepared RRP material and also RRP workbooks are there. And the third thing is ready reckoner is being provided to you. So the students who did not get them in the next 2 days, all these ready reckoners etc. will be delivered to you on your Telegram groups. Please do not worry. Now, along with this, important indices and reports are also being prepared. Economic institutions, that material is also being prepared for you. So we can handle this with that. And the next is polity. So this is the most, well covered in your RRP because we completed RRP for all the batches. the Polity RRP, both in Hyderabad, Bangalore, everywhere we have covered the RRP for the students. So in this case, what kind of questions which are being asked in Polity? Let us take a look. The first one is there are certain high yielding areas which are repeatedly focused by the UPSC. So mostly the questions are becoming general. Previously they are more specific. In economy, the questions are becoming more specific, but in polity, the questions are becoming more general. It means, let's take features of Indian Constitution is one thing, which is getting lot many questions these years. The features, broad features. In this, there is one trend which is asking, let us see, right to marriage or freedom to marriage comes under what? Liberty. So like this, they are asking one particular thing. So which under which right or which thing it comes up as. So one is features. The second thing is legislative procedures is very keen on legislative procedures. And in this context, the budget is one strong instrument where he is asking the questions. So the mostly in the polity, the salient features we are seeing more and more questions. And then when we go to the next high yielding area is legislature. And third, judiciary. Normally, mainstream areas of judiciary are not being tested these days, but tribunals and then alternate dispute redressal mechanisms in India. So these are being more tested. Lok adalats, all these are getting tested. Gram Nyayalayas, etc. So that's why I want you to focus on judiciary with a special focus on the peripheral areas. In the legislature, the questions are being asked from the mainstream areas. Unlike this, in judiciary, it is from the peripheral areas. So in this case, the evolution of the Indian Constitution. Now, when though the question is being asked, institutional evolution is being focused upon. Institutional evolution means we talk about the Election Commission of India. We talk about CAG, our various committees. So please also look into them. So in this case, the most important area further tested is what are the constitutional institutions in India? Now, there are fine differences between these constitutional institutions. If you see, Election Commission expenditure is not charged to Consolidated Fund of India, and there is no restriction on the restrictions on post-retirement employment of election commissioners, but there are restrictions on UPSC members and also CAG. And in this case, the CAG is been appointed under hand and seal under of the president. Now, CAG has got greater constitutional protection compared to other election commissioners. And the removal process of the election commissioners has become controversial. So, election commission being in the news, CAG with regard to Rafale deal being in the news, yes, those are the high yielding areas. So the institutions, the UPSC likes one institution that is Attorney General. So these kind of the things we always need to focus when we study for this particular examination. So when we go to the polity, the questions are simple. So polity, out of the 17 questions, I expect my students to answer at least 14 questions. Out of the economy 22 questions, I expect you to answer at least 15 questions. Now, the high yielding area which we have is the environment. So I have one issue over here. I want to be very clear and straight to you. So 50% of the questions of the environment are easy, and the remaining 50% are tricky. So when I talk about the environment question, I'll put it as this way. Questions, see, 18% are coming, average 18 questions, let us take. So in this, 9 questions are easy to answer. Plus 9 questions are most difficult. Where we are getting those questions is difficult to understand. In this case, IUCN Red List, Red Data Book is one prominent area. And the second, various conventions are made. What convention is about what? This is one thing. And then environmental laws and institutions in India. Environmental laws and institutions in India. This is one area which we have to focus upon, environmental laws and institutions. If we do these kind of areas, and similarly, there are certain concepts like ozone depletion, climate change, and if you know, the today the UPSC is not very much testing you on these concepts, but it is testing you more on conventions, laws, and institutions related to environment, and what is the biodiversity of India? What are the threats to this particular biodiversity? And in this context, the UNESCO organization, Man and Biosphere Program, what are the various World Heritage Sites, etc., biosphere reserves in India, national parks in India. So it means how we are protecting our biodiversity, biodiversity hotspots, in situ, ex situ protection, and then the national parks, biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries. And here, let us take Kaziranga is very much in the news. So the repeated floods to Brahmaputra, it has brought Kaziranga, Manas, etc. in Assam. So we shall be able to focus what are the special species or what are the wildlife they are known for. So, similarly, wetlands. What is the advantage of wetland? And what the Ramsar Convention is talking about the wetlands. These are all the things which we need to focus upon. So, environment. So, concepts have an idea about them, but IUCN Red List. What are the various conventions to protect our environment and forests? In this context, forest fires, this year a question is expected for sure. What is the reason why forest fires are expected as a question? Understand, the forest fires, because of Amazon forest fires and also Australian bushfires. So these two we have to be very careful when we study about them. So forest fires, etc. And what are the threats to the environment? And you know that coronavirus also has come from wildlife have, eating of certain animals. So the wildlife poaching is a threat to the world, and China is the biggest market for the wildlife. Indian tigers, etc., they are being lost because of this Chinese market, Asian and Chinese market. In this context, Wildlife Protection Act, Environment Protection Act, these are very much important. So, in the context of the wildlife, we have got the tiger census. So what are the tiger reserves and which tiger reserves have the highest, where the tiger population grew highest? These factual points which we need to have. So in spite of this, out of 18 questions, if my students are able to do 10, I'm very much happy about that. And then science and technology. So in the science and technology, I divide the questions as like this SNT questions. One is biology basics. Now, many of the over enthusiastic students they want to read all the biology textbooks of NCRT. I say that is unnecessary. In the case of the biology, vitamins, and the high yielding areas are there. Vitamins, various types of diseases, viral diseases, bacterial diseases. Let's take Japanese encephalitis in news. It is a viral disease. And then let's talk about malaria, a parasite caused by a parasite. So typhoid. So which disease, common diseases which are caused by what kind of microorganism? And the second, when we go to biology itself, next is we talk about certain enzymes and hormones which are there in our body. Vitamins, enzymes, hormones, various kinds of diseases. These are more than enough, and you can cover half the questions. And the third is if we go to physics, now, there are certain applied aspects which we read at plus one, plus two level. Centripetal force, mr omega square r, mv square by r. So that formula, which is why we raise the banks of the roads. So these kind of things, the abnormal behavior are, and all what is that of water. So a minus 4 degrees, when we are decreasing the temperature, it expands rather than contraction, that anomalous behavior of the water. So this kind of questions, which are favorites to UPSC. And when we go to chemistry, Only certain kinds of compounds they are good at. They don't ask much more than that. So the nuclear compounds are nuclear energy related things, and that's also being rarely asked in chemistry now. Mostly the questions are coming from few basics of physics, few basics of the biology. And the second, technology wise questions are increasing these days. So sciences wise questions are decreasing. By and large, technology wise questions are increasing. So if you do your main science and technology, let's take certain technological aspects. Bio toilets are in news. So how these bio toilets occur, that is what is the question. And then gene or else transcription. A transcription means what? Or we talk about biotechnology, various kinds of techniques which have newly come up. So focus on what you read for mains in your science and technology. If you go to space, what are the new satellites launched? What are the launch vehicles? What are the new space missions which India is undertaking, which the world is undertaking? So these are more than sufficient. So focus more on technology and less on science. And in the science, most repeated areas you need to focus. Out of these 10 questions, with some kind of elimination techniques and common sense, we will be able to answer at least 6 to 7 questions. And the next is we have geography and history. So geography questions, because what we did is geography plus various places in news which are related to various international organizations are been clubbed and kept in the geography category. So that's why the number of questions in the geography appears to be high. So geography, international organizations and their locations, etc., are also included in this places in news or the international organizations in news. So in this case, geography questions are more conceptual. Let's take what will happen, what is the vegetation gradation as we go up the, Himalayas. So the next is what is this particular latitudes, longitudes, how various variables will change. So these kind of questions they have been asking, and various kinds of climates across the world. Sometimes, rarely, they ask the question. So this will be covered to you in depth by your geography teacher, Sandeep sir, in tomorrow's class. But my point here is geography, places in news, and organizations and international issues. Let's take Syria is there. Last time there is a question. Which of the following or else match the following question? So, which city belongs to which country? It is came because in the case of this ISIS activists or ISIS terrorism, we have many places mentioned. So that's why that question was in news. So these all included in the geography section. So you shall be able to answer around 12 questions. These are very easy to answer once you go through the geography through maps classes. And second, if you are clear with your geography concepts, so 12 questions can be answered. The tricky area is history. Sometimes ancient medieval is totally neglected. If you see the last year's paper, all of a sudden it has become the favorite for UPSC. And some years, modern India is very much stressed out. So in this case, let us go with an objective that history, ancient medieval 40%, modern will be 60%. So in this case, modern, let's take 60% means around 10 questions. Here we talk about 6 questions. So out of 16 questions, we shall be able to answer at least 8 questions based on the difficulty level. If the paper is easy, you will be able to answer 12 questions. This shall be our target while we attempt for this prelims. Luckily, you guys got more time to prepare for prelims. Please do not waste your time. Right? Are we clear on to this? Now, so with this, we have talked about overall strategy related to UPSC preparation, how you shall get focus your marks onto various subjects. Now, when we talk about the environment, remember one issue. Environment, let me talk about a new thing. So, what is that? In case during this lockdown, how shall we prepare ourselves? How shall we gear up ourselves during the time of this lockdown? So, lockdown crisis, how it has to be handled. So if you think these are holidays, then there is no better fool than you. These are not holidays. This is a continuance of your preparation. Please prepare. Don't consider them as holidays. So, what all the classes? Normally, when we prepare well, when there is a schedule around us, then we prepare well. Do you agree? The schedule is the most important thing which will gear up or gear us towards preparation. But most of the times when the student make their own schedule, they will not follow that. So in this context, making the schedule is the responsibility taken up by the institute. So what kind of schedule was given to you? So you know that our Gayatri campus schedule is being implemented for all the students, and every day 100 questions test is conducted to the students. Now, don't question anything. Now, two or three question paper or else some small mistakes are coming up, or answer mistakes. There are controversials. Please do not worry about that. Raise those questions. Why? We try our best to minimize these controversies. But out of these 100 questions, these are meant to learn, not meant to test. So it means any new concept comes up, you need to do a retrospective study of those. Go reverse and study those. So a retrospective study, it makes you to get control over that particular topic. So writing a test a day is like an apple a day keeps you healthy. A test a day keeps you focused. So Gayatri Campus Test, it is available for you to everyone to online. And I already gave you a hotline number. Please go through that particular hotline number. So WhatsApp, because calls are too many, and you don't feel bad if the calls are not been answered. But this hotline number again I am mentioning over here, 9121240077. So you have to send only a WhatsApp message to this particular number. Only WhatsApp message is the medium of communication to this particular number. If you don't have WhatsApp messaging, you can send the SMS. Then we will get back to you. This person will send the respective department that particular grievance or doubt, etc. Then the respective teacher or the respective department person will come to your rescue. So the rescue time or else grievance redressal time, it is at best is 24 hours. Please use this number, note down this number, and you have to reach to this number only through WhatsApp or through SMS. Hope you understand this. So, rule number one, lockdown is not a holiday, it is a time to refocus and prepare well. And the next is follow the schedule which is given to you with regard to Gayatri campus. And the schedule is prepared in such a way that the RRP programs are integrated with it. Slowly, we are also going to integrate the Zoom classes which we are conducting now with this particular schedule. So, as this week we are just doing the overview of the classes, from the next week onwards, we may integrate the Zoom classes and RRP programs. RRP is already integrated with the schedule. The Zoom classes will also be integrated with the schedule. Hope you are clear on to this. Now, let's go further into the next slide. UPSC Diversity Index. You know that we give the test based on the diversity index. The HOD for this program is Srija ma'am. So we have developed LAEX diversity index based on the UPSC diversity index. When I see the question papers of most popular test series, they do not follow the UPSC diversity. Then we thought, we sat down together and we prepared this UPSC diversity index, which we follow in our tests. Now, most of the questions, almost 45% of the questions from 2011 to 2019, if we observe, these are single answer questions. But if you see your question paper, most of the questions are statement based questions. So obviously it is not in pattern of the UPSC. So that's why our question papers, we strictly follow this UPSC diversity index. So as you are doing other tests as they are popular, so you believe that that is the right way? No. You have to be guided by the only tests which are been previous question papers of UPSC. So like in La Excellence, I made sure that our R&D team is guided by this UPSC Diversity Index. Now, we have made the diversity only based on form. Now, next is we are developing the diversity based on style and also substance. So we are using R&D team is using this time to develop this style and substance and integrate that with the software. It means our question paper standards in the next 2 months are expected to increase further. So every day there is a scope for improvement. Now UPSC diversity index, if we carefully observe, 45%, that means almost 45 questions out of 100, these are coming from the single statement question, single answer questions. So these are the most easiest. If you have clarity, you can easily answer them. You can answer 30 to 35 questions. This is a very high yielding area. But the most difficult area is the two statement question, because in the two statement questions you can't escape, because one statement, one only, options will be like this, two only, both one and two, neither one nor two, like this the question will be. So it means you cannot play any elimination technique in the case of two statement questions, but three statement and multiple statement questions, yes, you can play the elimination technique. But here, elimination technique is almost useless. And the various tricks like extreme statements, only, shall, must, always, all these things also normally do not play up in the two statement questions. Two statement questions are facts. Now, they do not play up normally with the two statements questions. But the two statement questions out of 70, 100 questions, 17 are two statement questions on an average. So out of this 17, my students, I'm expecting them to answer around 7 to 8. That would be good enough. And the next is, let's go to three statement questions. These are the highest among the statement based. That is 25 questions. When we talk about these 25 questions, three statement questions through elimination technique and through application of common sense, you will be able to answer 15 to 17 questions. Elimination technique can be best used for three statements. So in this, there are two types, where elimination technique is possible, where it is not possible. What are the questions where they will not be possible? Let us see the options. 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3, 1 and 3, 1, 2, 3. So here, elimination choice is relatively very limited. Elimination is very limited. Our elimination is not possible in this particular. Then elimination has to happen not through choices, directly through statements. How we will do through the statements? First is, I told you in your class, extremity of the statements we have to understand. We have to sniff the numbers which are being given. Are the numbers right or wrong? And the third important thing is, which we haven't revealed to anyone, that is probability score. So with regard to certain questions, we have to go for the probability of the repetition of the statement. What did I say about the probability? So in your choices, let's take 1, 2, 2 only, 2, 3. Now, 1 and 3, like this if they have given. So which is the most repeated? So 1, 2 is repeated. When it is most repeated, a particular statement, then it will be right. And the second is the short and direct statements. There is a good chance the short and direct statement will be the true statement. If the length of the statement is going up, then there's a chance that the statement will go wrong. Because to lie or to make a false statement, it takes a lot of effort from the examiner. So that's the reason why lengthy statements, unless they are being very clear and crisp, the lengthy statements normally goes wrong. And verify extremity, the length of the statement, and the third thing is the probability of that particular repetition among the choices you need to observe with regard to statement based questions. Then you can 75% of the cases the statement goes right. But none of these tricks are a replacement for your study of this particular or for your understanding of your concepts. These are only a firefighting techniques. The best part is always the best way of preparing for this exam is keeping your concepts and common sense up. That's what makes you success. Right. Let's move on further. So let us discuss few questions. So as I said to you, single statement based questions. What do we mean by these single statement based questions? So A, B, C, D, you have to pick the right answer over here. So the instruments of instructions contained in the Government of India Act, how they have come into picture, they are nothing but DPSP. So you have to directly see, you have read these instruments of instructions, so how they have made. If you know this point, it's very easy question and you save lot of time over here. Now here, I want to talk to you. In this, not, which of the following is not correct or which of the following is incorrect. So this kind of questions, most of the students, they know the answer, still they do it as wrong. You need to be very careful with regard to these kind of questions. Hope you are clear with this. Now, what are two statement questions? I have explained you this. Constitution, two statements are given over here, and at the bottom they will ask either they want correct or incorrect. So people, what the mistake they do, they read these two statements and they forget to go over here and they will directly mark the answer. In this case, when it kept is incorrect, then automatically student does the wrong, because we don't see this. We identify the correct statements and we mark the answer. No, that's not the way we shall go forward. So when we read these two statement questions, first, what is the thing which we have to do? So first we have to read this and underline this. Either he is asking for correct or incorrect. The second step, what we have to do, read the statements. If they are correct, tick mark it. If they are wrong, into mark it. Correct and into mark it. So now, again, third step is see this correct or incorrect. So if they ask for incorrect, select this and make it as a habit in practice. What the student does is he reads this statement and this statement as he has asked the incorrect. So if this is incorrect, instead of marking into, he will keep it as right. And when he looks back, why I kept it as right? It has to be a wrong statement, and he will change the answer. So that's why, not to go through this confusion, what we need to have over here, simple thing. So you have to follow the steps. First, read the question demand. What we shall do in demanding the question? The simple is read the first statement and either it is asking for correct or incorrect. And then mark the correct statement with tick, wrong statement with into. And again, third step, see this. And then you have to pick the right answer. So most of the times, IO moment will be there. IO moment, what I call it as this. It means I know the answer, but I marked it as wrong. And I see with many of the girl students, they start crying. I know this answer. I would have cleared prelims. I did this wrong knowingly. Stop it. Stop crying. Practice it this way. Now, another problem comes is reverse of the reverse statements. What do I mean by this? Reverse of the reverse statements. So places effective restrictions on individual liberty in the interest of state authority. Effective restrictions. Now, do not place any restrictions. If it given as like this. So he is keeping all, and he may ask incorrect statement. Here, do not. So no, both the nots is asking incorrect and is asking giving do not, is making a negative statement. In this context, the number of students doing the question wrong is also high. So reverse of the reverse, it means he will ask incorrect and he will give an incorrect statement, and that statement will be negatively written rather than direct or positively written. So those kind of the statement student gets confused in the exam because of the exam tension. When it adds up to you, you tend to make the mistake on that particular area. You need to be very careful in that particular context. Next is three statement based question. As I told to you, so the consider the following statements, right? Statements which are correct he is asking for. Then what is the third step I have to do? I have to tick mark right and wrong. The Parliament Prevention of Disqualification Act 1959 exempts several posts of disqualifications on the grounds of office of profit. Next is the above mentioned act was amended 5 times. The term office of profit is well defined in the Constitution of India. So, We know this particular question. So in this case, how many times it is amended, we do not know. So normally students will not keep a trick to the detail. So then the term office of profit is not well defined in the constitution, we know. So Prevention of Disqualification Act, it can amend certain posts on the grounds of office of profit. It can not to be considered as office of profit. So this kind of statements when we have, so what we have to do, what we know, what we do not know. Then if we have one statement as a confusion, apply the rules of elimination. Then after applying the rules of elimination, then select the answer. So this is how we need to go. Here, I'm not here to make you practice these questions. I'm here to talk you about the techniques. So already we did answers for all these questions in RRP session. And then a test of all the previous questions is conducted, will be conducted to you tonight. Whatever the polity previous questions are there, these all questions will be conducted as a test to you tonight. That's why I'm not giving you any answers over here. So this test of previous questions, all of you have to take it. So to understand the previous questions seriously. Next, multiple statement questions. It means the statements have to be more than three. Now these statements, all the statements being correct is very rare. Now in this case, again the technique is the same. Now here see, elimination technique, how it's work. 2, 2, 2, 3 times 2 is repeated. And one's first statement is also repeated 3 times. 4 is repeated 4 times, observe. So do I need to read the fourth statement? Not at all, because fourth has to be obviously an answer. It means I have to talk about 1, 2, 3, I have to play around. So in this context, it is more or less for me is a three statement question. 1, 2, 2, 3, and then one only. 1, 2, 3 is the choices which are reduced to. So though it is a four statement question, it is effectively reduced to me a three statement question. So right against exploitation, prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor, and abolition of untouchability. Abolition of untouchability, we know that it comes under right to equality. Yes or no? So it means two shall not be an answer. So when two is not an answer, then obviously what all are eliminated? This is eliminated, this is eliminated, this is eliminated. Right? Then what do we left with? C is the answer. So it means in this, I need to know only two things. So fourth, by seeing the choices, I'm not looking at that. And then if I know one is the right answer, then obviously only I have two things to worry about. So I'm looking at, so sorry, abolition of untouchability is second statement. No. So it means this is a wrong answer. So I have to choose between this. B is been gone. Right, A and D are my choices. So I am able to eliminate 50% of the choices based on this. So what I did in this, how I applied the elimination technique, I'm really sorry. So first is I have saw which is the choice existing in all the cases. That is 4. Then it has become a 3 point question. Then I have seen this. I have eliminated a wrong statement. Abolition of untouchability is wrong. So this is a wrong statement. So 2 shall not exist in the answer because he is asking for correct statements. So 2 shall not exist. It means what? Second, A shall not exist, and then B shall not exist, D shall not exist. So the answer has to be C. That is how I have did this particular answer. So if I know only one statement, it's though four statement question, effectively it's a single question answer for me. It's very easy to do. This is how we have to apply the elimination technique in this particular context. Are we clear on this? So don't panic on seeing this. First, start seeing the choices. In this, which is a common choice, especially in the multi statement question, this works very well for you. Are we clear, sir? Let's move on further. Match the following based questions. So, in this, correctly matched, or he may give incorrectly matched. Which of the following are incorrectly matched? Or he may give another style of question in the match the following. Now, he will give this A, 1, 2, 3, 4, which are incorrectly matched. 1, 2 only. Like this, he can give the question. Now, he can give you to identify a single and this thing, or he may ask you Which of the following might be incorrectly matched? So 2, 3 like that. So it means the multiple choice, the match the following questions can be coming in various styles also. This is one of the style which is mentioned to you. Jawaharlal Nehru, which committee? Rajendra Prasad, which committee? So which is correctly matched? Now, which is incorrectly matched? This is one way. Or which of the following are incorrectly matched? He can give a next level 1, comma 2, B 2, comma 3, like that next level of questions he may give you. So this is what we need to be careful about. So these are the different types of the questions. So just now we saw form based questions. In this, match the following. Though he is asking for one answer, see, he is trying to test entire concept and here over here. So various committees, he is testing the entire concept through it. What are the various committees? So entire chunk is tested through this. And these questions invariably, no analysis, these are direct facts. Match the following questions are direct facts. You know or you do not know. So these are direct facts. Statement based questions, single answer questions. You can apply the concept, logic, reason, analysis, elimination technique, etc. So to make these answers possible. In the match the following question, do I know it or not? Because these are fact based. If you know it, you will do wonders about it. The next part of this is, let's go RRP 2020 materials which are going to come to you. What all the materials? Many of the times in our institute, the biggest complaint of the students is what materials, when they will come, we do not know. This is how the students talk about. Now, let us see this way. Now, I think the lecture is a bit fast to you. DVR sir just sent a message to me. I will try to slow it down. So let's talk about the materials which are going to be released to you. Polity Ready Reckoner is released. Previous year's booklet is released. Practice papers are released to you. So it means immediately every day we have to focus on doing polity, and we have to entirely focus on polity because all the things are there with us. Economy Ready Reckoner is released. Previous year's papers, these are at the DTP. It means next 2 days they are expected to come to you within the next 2 days. So in this case, in this next 2 days, so economy, RRP is also done, and RRP access will also be provided to all the students. So economy is one strong area which we have to focus during this lockdown. And Geography of India and World, it is Ready Reckoner is released, current affairs are also released. So the third which we have to focus is geography. Now, the remaining things, modern history, ancient, medieval, these are all in the progress. So, first set of this, which we have to focus and finish, are polity, economy, geography. These are the three subjects which you have to focus. And then modern history, ancient, medieval, science and technology, these are in focus. We need 7 more days to get this because we already prepared the material. It is held up at the level of TTP or at the level of review. Once it is done, those will be released to you. So, if anyone who did not get these materials, please send it to the helpline number. They will message you those things. And with regard to current affairs, schemes consolidation, within next 2 days, you are going to get this material. Economic survey also within 2 days, you will get this material. Budget, governor generals, these are all the high yielding areas. History, governor generals is high yielding areas. Important personalities, historical evolution of constitution, various institutions of India, international organizations, tribes in news, diseases in news, environment and new conventions which have come up, environmental acts and policies, endangered species. All these materials will come to you. In this, already few are released to you. Endangered species, acts and policies, environmental acts and policies, and then historical evolution, important personalities in the history of India, which is a high yielding area again, governor general's budget. These are being released. The next is the tribes in news is also released. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is released. We will also release explanation videos to you on part of these particular areas, which are very high yielding areas. Now, Let me put it as topics versus year-wise number of questions. Next slide with regard to polity. Now I am coming into polity mode, exclusive polity mode. In this exclusive polity mode, so which is the most high yielding area? That is parliament and legislature. This is the most high yielding area. So legislature is one thing which we have to focus upon. Next, see constitutional, non-constitutional bodies. How many questions? And the next is we focus upon executive, and then salient features. The questions are increasing these years. And then, as usual, fundamental rights is an high yielding area. So, legislature, constitutional, non constitutional bodies, fundamental rights, salient features, executive. If you focus upon that, makes a very big success to you. That really brings in success to you with regard to polity. And the remaining, these are not much of, though one or two questions are now and then coming up. So now one more issue, the rights in the fundamental rights, they are talking about rights based questions, consumer rights, forest rights, and then panchayat extension to scheduled areas. This year I'm expecting a question on this. So like this, human rights, basic concepts of liberty, freedom, and then these basic concepts related to secularism, religious rights. These are questioned these days. Concepts of equality, fraternity, justice. These are going to be questioned. So equality, fraternity, liberty, justice. So these are the core philosophical aspects of our constitution. These will be questioned even this year. So overlapping areas as we discussed in RRP between fundamental rights, DPSP, fundamental duties, preamble. What are the overlapping things among these that you need to focus on? Which one or two questions every year they are coming up. So this is what is the topic wise, year wise questions. DVR sir just requested me to take a break at 11 a.m. so that we can, understand the mistakes and correct for the next part. So the break is for 5 minutes. We are going to start at 11:05 the class again. Right, 11 o'clock, 5 minutes. We are going to start from slide number 13. Let us take a break. Just see the students. Now, what I am trying to say is the number of questions in 2017 are 23. These are reduced to 15. Now they have come down to 12. Does it mean polity questions are drastically reducing? No. The nature of questions, how they are changing, let us see. Now, if you observe, the areas which are high yielding have changed. So it means the parliament and the state legislature, these have become a very high yielding area. And then salient features have become a high yielding area. Fundamental rights, as usual, is the high yielding area. Now, in this context, UPSC more repeatedly testing few areas in the static part. And second, more and more questions now are deflected towards the current affairs. What do I mean by this? So, you know, Rajasthan, so Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, anti-defection law was very much in the news. Because of this anti-defection law, we can see disqualification of MLAs, MPs, our 10th schedule and provisions of the constitution, and Supreme Court judgments related to that. These can be the questions. And then various articles are in the news. Ordinances 123, 213, powers of the governor. So these are all current affairs dynamic topics. So these topics will be tested to you. So the static areas questions are relatively coming down and the number of current affairs areas are increasing. So that's why you feel that the number of questions have come down. So the number of questions from the static areas have come down. So in the current affairs, what we have to focus now, what are the political institutions which are there in the news? And then what are the political institutions mean? Let's take a Niti Aayog. That can be a question. What are the indices given by Niti Aayog can be a question. Or which of the following are the functions of Niti Aayog can be a question. So that institution is being tested to you now. And then interstate, river water disputes. So, and you know that interstate river water disputes with regard to this permanent commission, permanent tribunal is being created. What is this permanent tribunal? What is article related to that? So, permanent tribunal is actually the parliament authority to create that. But this parliament authority was given through the constitution. So, what is the constitutional article? So in this case, normally we get confused. 263 Interstate Council. 262, is it Interstate River Water Disputes Act or not? Are Parliament power to enact on interstate river water disputes or not? So you have to, recollect that in your mind repeatedly. So that way, what all the articles which are related to this and in news, more and more you recollect, the chances of you answering these questions will increase. So this is the trend which you have to observe. And there are two takeaway points. The UPSC is more and more restricting itself to few important topics. One is legislature, because the current affairs in legislature are many. Why the current affairs in the legislatures are many? Because of disqualifications, anti-defections, powers of the speaker, and speaker playing a mischievous role with regard to defections. That's why the parliament and legislature, their significance, the news surrounding them have actually increased. And the second is in the liberty, equality, justice. These concepts, how they are portrayed across our fundamental rights, DPSP, those areas are being tested. And to what extent you know the overview holistically the features of the constitution, that is the most tested area. So that's how UPSC, as I said to you, in polity, UPSC is moving from specifics to general. This was my statement earlier. That's what I meant to explain you here. The next one is polity based previous year's questions. In this, what are the most common questions which are being tested? These are single statement questions. So polity UPSC's favorite is single statement questions. So that's why the polity is a very easy subject to answer, because in other subjects you may get around 30-35% of single answer questions. In polity, you get around 55 to 60% of the questions as single answer questions. So that's why you need to do not worry, because polity questions are going to be easy. But one year, I think last before year, they made a trick with polity questions, especially with regard to president's powers, etc. They made certain tricks. But keep your mind cool and you can answer polity questions very easily. So that's why come with your doubts on polity questions. Now, constitutional development. So if you see these questions, consider the following this thing. Now, this is what kind of question is? It's a two statement question. And how we shall answer this question? Let us recollect and practice. First is read the question. That is, which of the following are correct? Underline the word correct. And then see the statements. Constitutional government is one which places effective restrictions on individual liberty in the interests of state authority. Not in the interests of the state authority, in the interests of the citizens and their freedoms. The restrictions are meant to be kept in the interests of citizens. Places effective restrictions on the authority of the state in the interests of individual liberty. Yes. So this is what is the constitutional government. So the constitution is meant to protect you. In the process, it also keeps certain restrictions on the citizens which are reasonable to ensure order in the society, reasonable restrictions. The first statement is false, second statement is right. So what is the answer we have to keep? So two only, because he's asking for correct. If he would have asked for incorrect, then what is the answer? It becomes one only. So this is the practice, though it appears very simple. Most of the students does mistakes over here. You need to be careful. And the next is instruments of instructions. They come from where? They come from directive principles of. They are nothing but reflected as directive principles of state policy. Not which of the following objectives is not embedded in the preamble? As I said to you, preamble plus fundamental rights plus DPSP fundamental duties. They have a flow. Let's take about liberty, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship. So these are the things which are there. So these are mentioned in preamble. Then this also comes in fundamental rights, but in a different wording. So UPSC is also looking for do you exact wording do you know or not. So not embedded in the preamble. See, liberty of thought, yes. Liberty of expression, yes. Liberty of belief, faith, worship, yes. But is economic liberty is there? Economic liberty means the society has to be capitalistic. Economic liberty is never spoken about in our constitution. So we are actually a socialistic country. So our constitution talks about socialism. So economic liberty is nowhere mentioned. But justice, social, economic, political justice is mentioned. Equality, what is that? Equality of status and opportunity. But justice wise, social, economic, political. He just played between, in the place of economic justice, economic liberty. So he plays those words. And if you are conscious and you repeatedly read, so through this question, I am going to emphasize the principle repetition. Many of the times, students confront me, sir, why you give less time and make us read more times? So I ask you to, I'll give 3 hours to complete your polity or some chapters. I ask you to do 6 times the same thing in your revision module. In Gayatri campus, one of the students has actually fought with me on this. The process here is simple. The retention comes with repetition. Retention and repetition, they are intricately connected with each other. So, if you want to reproduce, retention leads to reproduction and recollection. So, the recollection is important for prelims. Representation, a reproduction of the information is important for mains. So, repetition leads to retention leads to recollection, and also reproduction of the information. That way, it serves the prelims and mains. That's how this flow of the things happen. Hope you are clear on this. Now, the mind of the makers of the Constitution is reflected in which of the following? Again, it is in the preamble. So, if you talk about the preamble, there are various explanations or adjectives comes to this. So, preamble, it is like the lighthouse of the Constitution. It is kind of unraveling the mind of our constitutional forefathers. It is the Constitution in its brief, or it is the preface to the Constitution, or it is the Constitution in nutshell. So, preamble based question. Preamble is a general thing. As I said, two questions are becoming from specific to general. So, as the questions are becoming from specific to general, so preamble is an area which is related to general. And then salient features of constitution related to general areas. So, preamble is a general area. So, you need to have complete control over the preamble. So, the mind of the constitutional makers is reflected in what? Preamble. Next is law and liberty. Now, this is a controversial question. So, liberty means, so this is there in your NCRT textbook. This concept is there in NCRT textbook. So, citizenship rights, etc. So, it is also is asking general or specific. Is asking question which is general. So, the basic relationship between law and liberty. So, law. What kind of laws we have? We have certain laws which are positive, which are meant to create welfare of the people. Certain laws which are protective, like take scheduled tribes, SC ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, and certain laws which are regulatory. So it means we have to accept that there are different types of the laws which are made by the legislature. These regulatory laws are meant to bring in order. So when they are trying to bring in order, obviously they will restrict the liberties. Now here the first concept is when they are trying to bring order, they are restricting the liberties. So law, can it restrict the liberty? Yes. Why the law is trying to restrict the liberty is it is to bring in order. So with order, disorderliness, chaos, chaos compromises the liberty. Anarchy compromises the liberty. So to beat this chaos and anarchy, we have to bring in order. So in that way, if we see that this order coming through law is not actually restricting the freedoms, it is providing actually the liberty. So it means your freedoms are restricted to provide you for liberty. So that concept wise, if we see, laws are meant to provide you for liberty. Anyhow, positive laws which are giving you welfare, which is fulfilling your basic needs, they provide higher goals to you in life. You don't need to worry about your basic safety, food, etc. It creates higher goals. It is meant to create positive liberty. Now, whenever we violate the law, you can be arrested. So this arrest is a violation of the law. So in this context, why this law has to exist, why your liberty is being restricted, again, it is to maintain greater order in the society. So from this conceptual understanding, there are more laws, there is less liberty. If there are no laws, there is no liberty. If there is liberty, laws have to be made by the people. If laws are changed too often, liberty is in danger. Now see, very conflicting, very high level question it is. Now, if there are no laws, if I go to the statement, if there are no laws, there is no liberty. That can be a possible explanation. If there are no laws, there is no liberty. That's how we can put it as. So either the laws are made by the people or dictators, etc. The laws can be restrictive and regulatory. So we need certain laws. I mean, if you say there are more laws, there is less liberty. So, what kind of the laws? If it is, I say, welfareistic things, obviously the statement goes wrong. So, if there are more laws, more means what kind of more laws is the question. If there are no laws, there is no liberty. Yes, that's an absolute statement. If there is liberty, laws have to be made by the people. Either it is the nature of the law that defines the liberty of you, it is not who made it. If the laws are changed too often, liberty is in danger. So, laws are supposed to be changed to the changing circumstances. So, what is meant by this is vague statement when he's talked about too often. What is meant by too often is the question. So, that's why the relatively which fits into my set of things is B. So this kind are higher conceptual questions which you have to focus upon. Which of the following are envisaged right against exploitation in the Constitution? In the previous session, I have explained to you about the technique. What is the technique I discussed? Any question comes up, what he is asking for correct or incorrect, these two have to be seen. And the next is, it's a multi-statement question. So what we have to do, we have to eliminate which is there in all the choices. So it means a four-statement question has become three-statement question. Now in this case, now what is the point? Right against exploitation. Now I know that the second statement is absolutely wrong. So abolition of untouchability, it is Article 17. It is under equality rights, you all know. So it means second can be eliminated. Then this goes off, this goes off, this goes off. Then answer will be C. So that is how, even if I know one point, I can make wonders over here. I need to know only one point. Right. The technique I told you. Now, this is about fundamental rights. Is it a general question or a specific question? This is a specific question. If they ask about the features of fundamental rights, or why fundamental rights are necessary in a democratic country, or why fundamental rights are important for constitutional governance, when we talk about these things, that question becomes generalistic. Here, actually, he's talking about a specific fundamental right. So that's why this question is specific question. So in the specific question, prohibition of traffic S, it is Article 23. Forced labor, it's also spoken over there. Interest of minorities, these are Article 29, 30. And then untouchability, Article 17 goes into equality. Prohibition of employment of children in factories, Article 24. So 1 and 4 are the right statements over here. Sorry. 1 and 4 are the right statements over here. Now, 1 and 4 are the right statements. So let's go further to this question. Consider the following with reference to Constitution of India, DPSP, Directive Principles of State Policies, constitute limitations on. Are DPSP are a limitations or a positive function or a negative function? This is a general nature of DPSP, a general question. DPSP are a positive function or a negative function? Please tell me. These are actually positive functions. They are not limitations. They are providing for directives for positive action. So it means the limitations itself is wrong or not? Yes, I don't. Okay, one second. Okay, now. So now let us see this question. So with reference to the Constitution of India, the directive principles of state policy constitution limitations on, they are not limitations on anything. They are actually positive instructions for the legislative and executive action. So they want us to, our government, to make laws on these particular aspects. So obviously both of them are wrong. They are not limitations. They are not at all limitations. Then neither one nor two has to be the answer. Now, consider the following statements again regarding the directive principles. So, when we go for the directive principles of state policy over here, the principles spell out socio-economic democracy in the country. The provisions contained in these principles are not enforceable by any court. So, he's talking about nature of the fund, DPSP. So, again, is it general or specific question? Which of the following are Gandhian DPSP? That's a specific question. Which of the following are the features of DPSP? A general question. So if you observe, overview of the topic is most important. Whenever you study the polity, the students, when they come with a remotest point rather than seeing the macro perspective of that question. So if you see DPSP, so what kind of democracy between, let us see, fundamental rights versus DPSP. Fundamental rights are meant to give political democracy. They are for civil rights. Most of them are civil and political rights. Now, when we go to DPSP, these are social and economic democracy. And then, what kind of rights? So, they are meant to give social justice and economic justice. So, these are fundamental rights. Are you can go to Supreme Courts and High Court, enforceable. You know, Article 32 to 26. And when we talk about this DPSP, they are non-enforceable by the court of law. That is the fundamental difference. Now, are DPSP inferior to fundamental rights? No. They are non-enforceable does not mean they are inferior. Why? Because at the economic status of the country, at the point of time, made the DPSP non-enforceable. Because to implement the DPSP, government needs a lot of resources. As these resources are not existing, that's the reason why this has come into this particular issue. So non-enforceable. So it is due to the deficit of resources, not meant to make the DPSP inferior. So fundamental rights are not superior to DPSP, but there is a relationship which has been established, and that is called balance between fundamental rights and DPSP. You know this point already. Balance between fundamental rights and DPSP. What is that? So this is the part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Article 1419, when they come in conflict with Article 31B, 31C, which will prevail? 31B, 31C will prevail. This is what we call it as the balance between fundamental rights and DPSP. So this balance is the part of the basic structure of the Constitution. Now let us see next part of the question, fundamental duties questions. Which of the following are of the true of the fundamental duties? Now, here, one question which UPSC is trying to ask you is, with regard to fundamental rights, difference between legal rights and constitutional rights. Though this is not right, let me explain you the UPSC mind over here. First question UPSC asking is the, first you need to ask, is this right is there in the Constitution or not? If it is there in the Constitution, yes, this is right. Now, within the Constitution, is it part of the part 3 of the Constitution? If it is in the part 3 of the Constitution, this is right. But part 3 is also part of the Constitution. No. So every fundamental right is also a constitutional right. But now, which are not mentioned, the rights which are not mentioned in the Constitution, UPSC considering that as legal rights. This has become a highly controversial question with regard to right to vote. In the right to vote, it is it is there under the Constitution. So it is a legal right because it is not under the fundamental rights. It's also a legal right. It is also a constitutional right. But UPSC has given answer for the constitutional right. That is a part of the Constitution. Hope you are clear with this. Now, similarly, fundamental duties, they are non-enforceable. We also have legal duties which are made by the law. Now, payment of taxes, income tax and other taxes. This payment of taxes is a legal duty. If you don't do the legal duty, you are punishable. If you don't pay your taxes, you can be sent to jail, arrested and sent to jail. But fundamental duties, if you are not following it, there is no problem to you. So there is no legal enforceability unless Parliament converts this fundamental duty into a legal duty. Let's take flag code is there. So you have to honor the national flag. But if the flag code is not there, then you will not be arrested for violating the national flag. So that's how. So fundamental duty can be made into a legal duty by the law of the Parliament. Now, a legislative process can be provided to enforce these duties. Next is no, there is no legal enforceability. They are correlative to legal duties? No, they are independent from legal duty. Neither one nor two. Next, relationship between rights and duties. We have absolutely, remember carefully. So, see the statement here. Rights are correlative with duties. Rights are personal and independent of society and duties. Rights, not duties, are important in the advancement of the personality of the citizen. Duties, not rights, are important for the stability of the state. Now, duties, not the rights, which are important for the stability of the state. Now, see what shall be the relationship between the rights and duties of the citizen? Now, rights are personal, hence independent of society and duties. No, these rights, etc., we have to see. When you see these topics, don't you think these are very wrong? This appears very wrong. Rights, not duties, are important for the advancement of the personality of the citizen. And responsibility is also part of the personality. Duties, not rights, are important for the stability of the state. No, if you protect the rights of the citizens, then only the state can be stable in a democracy. So, in this context, some rights are correlated with the duties is only the thing which fits into this discussion. So, if you see this, you are getting a particular thing. When you read these statements, your heart will not go for this. This appears that they are statement wise, they are very wrong. Because from the greater understanding of the things, this appears to be very wrong. So, laymen also will have an issue in answering this. Now, so the Parliament exempts several posts from the disqualification on the grounds of office of profit. Yes, Prevention of Disqualification Act 1959. It has kept certain offices not to be considered as office of profit, yes or no. So that way, that is a right statement. The above mentioned now, the term office of profit is well defined in the Constitution. This is a wrong statement. If I know only this point, I can make the answer. Don't worry. This 5 times amended, 10 times amended, I don't need to bother about it. Why? Let me explain it to you. The term office of profit is well defined in the Constitution. No. So, if it is well defined, why do we need again, a detailed law on that? Why we need that? If I know this statement is wrong, absolutely, I know. Because office of profit is not defined well, that is the biggest challenge here. So, in this context, third statement is wrong. See, if the where the third statement is absent, only in option A. All the other options, wrong, wrong, wrong. This is the answer. So, though it appears to be a three statement question, it is actually a single answer question to me. So that's why why it is in the news if you understand. Office of profit are rights and privileges of the legislature. Like that, there are certain gray areas of the constitution. These gray areas are not clearly defined. Now, with regard to Article 370, the government has used these gray areas to remove that particular Article 370. So it means what are the gray areas of the constitution? If you remember, you can immediately make an answer in this type of questions. So that's why the gray areas of the constitution, where there is no clear definition in the constitution, clarity in the constitution, that is one important area UPSC looks at. Now, regarding the money bill, which of the following statement is not correct? ఇక్కడ మనం పప్పులో కాలేస్తాం. So we may lose the point over here. Which of the following statements is not correct? Now here, reverse of the reverse statements. Be careful of this. Not of the not statements. Here there is not, and in these questions also sometimes not comes up. So, not of the not statements. Please be careful when you answer that. Now, a bill shall be deemed money bill. You know that what are the provisions related to money bill? Article 110. First, A, B, C, D, T. A, B, C, D, T. So A, B, C, D, T means appropriation, borrowing, custody, declaration of expenditure as a charged expenditure, any imposition of taxes. This is the formula we discussed, right? Money bill, it contains only provisions relating to imposition, abolition, remission, alteration, or regulation of any tax. Next, a money bill has provisions for the custody of consolidated fund. So, imposition, abolition, remission, alteration, and regulation of any tax. Is that a money bill or not? Yes. A money bill has provisions. This is the right statement. Custody of the consolidated fund of India. Though only is there, this is the red mark. But still, this is the direct statement from our text, Article 110. So, we don't need to worry. A money bill has provisions for the custody of consolidated fund of India or the contingency fund of India. Yes, that is C, custody. Is concerned with the appropriation money out of contingency fund of India. Appropriation of the money out of consolidated fund of India. That's how we need to remember. So that's why this statement is wrong. Now, borrowing of the money is regulated by money bill. Yes, that comes under the definition of money bill. So appropriation of, just see this way. Okay, so that's how we go for this. Now, again, cabinet form of government. Is this a generalist question or a specialist question? Specific question. It's a general question. Why? This is coming from salient features. What do we mean by cabinet form of government? The most important point of cabinet form of government is collective responsibility and collective decision making. This collective responsibility, anywhere if it comes as a word, that is the answer for me. So, salient feature. Now, that is federalism with unitary bias. Federalism, yes, because two levels of government. Now it has three levels of government. So, and then we talk about cabinet form of government. Yes, collective responsibility is there. Next is unitary bias. Then what are the features that makes it unitary bias? So like that, you need to understand cabinet form of government means collective responsibility. Why it is called parliamentary form of government? Executive of the day is answerable and accountable to the legislature. The executive of the day is answerable and accountable to the legislature. So that's why it is called parliamentary form of government. That is the central point you need to remember. Next, in this, which option has this particular collective responsibility? That is there in the C. Obviously, answer is going to be C. Next, with reference to Parliament of India, consider the following statements. Now, this is a two-statement question, so elimination technique will not work. And he is asking for correct or incorrect. We have to check this. Correct statements. A private member's bill is a bill presented by a member of parliament who is not elected but only nominated. No. What is a private member bill? Any bill which is presented by any member who is not part of the government. It means who is not a minister. So obviously first statement is wrong. Recently, a private member's bill has been passed in Parliament of India for the first time in the history. No, it's a very regular procedure. Every second alternative Friday will be used for the private member bills. So, India relatively private member bills are less, but private member bills are a regular phenomenon in India. So, obviously, this is an extreme statement. Both of them are wrong. Neither one nor two is the answer. Consider the following statements. Again, we are going into the legislature area. So, Legislative Council of a state is going to be very much important. The reason is, you know that AP State Legislative Assembly passed a bill for the abolition of Legislative Council, the State Legislative Assembly. So, Legislative Council who can create or abolish, that is by the Parliament. Only Parliament can create or abolish the Legislative Council. But it has to be requested by whom? State Legislative Assembly. What is the majority required? Special majority. What is the kind of special majority required? Right, that is two-third majority of those members present and voting, and then we need to have half of them has to agree. So a special majority of the state legislative assembly requests to the parliament, and parliament has to create or abolish that with a what majority? Simple majority. Ultimate authority to create or abolish a legislative council is in the hands of, Parliament. Now, the second area in the Legislative Council, now it is related to bicameralism. So, the general question can be related to bicameralism. Why we need two houses? So, because the second house shall act as the speed breaker. So that's why it shall stop the hasty legislations. And that's why second house also has to be a revisionary house. The second house has to be an expert house. This is how we talk in the support of bicameralism. Now, in that context, Rajya Sabha versus Legislative Council, are they are effective second houses or not? So Rajya Sabha is an effective second house, but not the Legislative Council, because there is no deadlock and there is no joint sitting. And then Legislative Council at best can delay an ordinary bill by 3 plus 1 month, that is 4 months. So that's why Legislative Council is not an effective revisionary house. And today the relative qualifications of the members of the Legislative Assembly itself have increased. These are the points. And the second part is this Legislative Council is having varied representation. So governor nominations, and then MLA selections, panchayat and municipalities, teachers and graduates, and then governors nominations. How many MLAs? These are the points you have to focus upon. So, what is the minimum strength of the Legislative Council? 40. Maximum strength can be 1/3 of the size of Legislative Assembly. So this is why it is in the news. That's why you need to focus on. Now, Legislative Council of a state can be larger in size than the legislative half of the legislative assembly of the particular state. No, the maximum size can be 1/3 of the legislative assembly. First statement is wrong. The governor of a state nominates the chairman of legislative council. No, the chairman of the legislative council is elected by the members of the council. So both 1 and 2 are the wrong statements. Now, in the case of the two statement questions, do not worry to answer neither one nor two. In the case of the three statements questions, four statements questions, probably you may work, more elimination, because neither one nor two can be relatively more than 25 to 30% of the cases, neither one nor two can be answered in the two statement questions. So that's why don't be aversive to neither one nor two. At least 25 to 30% questions that can be answered. Now, legislature question. The Rajya Sabha has no power either to reject or to amend a money bill. Obviously, that is the biggest challenge of Rajya Sabha. Three statement question. Now, Rajya Sabha cannot vote. He is asking for correct or incorrect, correct statements. Let's not deviate the procedure. Vote on the demands for grants. True, only Lok Sabha can vote on the demand for grants. Rajya Sabha cannot discuss the budget. No. Rajya Sabha can discuss, but cannot amend, but cannot vote. This is cannot reject, but it can discuss. This is the only power of Rajya Sabha with regard to money matters. It can only discuss. And with regard to charged expenditure, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha both only can discuss. With regard to all money matters, Rajya Sabha can only discuss. Right. And with regard to ordinary bills, Rajya Sabha can discuss, amend, and can go for deadlock, can go for joint sitting, all this. With regard to amendment bill, Rajya Sabha can discuss, amend, reject. No deadlock or no joint sitting in the case of amendment bills of the constitution. So obviously the third statement is wrong. 1 and 2 are the answers, 1 and 2 only. Now, what will follow if a money bill is substantially amended by the Rajya Sabha? So I call it as general question or specific question. So in the case of the legislature, the passage of the bills, this is the most important area. And then composition of the houses, and then powers of the speaker are the leaders of the house. These are the areas which have to be checked out. One is bills, how the various bills are passed, who are the leaders, What are the houses, their composition, and their relative status? That is a very useful question. These are the three areas which are tested. Money bill is substantially amended by Rajya Sabha. If a money bill is substantially amended, the Lok Sabha may still proceed with the bill, accepting or not accepting the recommendations of Rajya Sabha. That's what the Lok Sabha does. The Rajya Sabha at best can wait for, delay the bill for 14 days. Now, as I know the A as the answer, I shall not just continue with the statements of B and C and D. So even then I have to read the B, C, D statements before you mark the answer as A. Many of the time students see, okay, I know the answer, I don't need to read the other options. No, you have to read the other options. Many times there can be misleading statements. Lok Sabha cannot consider the bill further. No, it is the case in the case of amendment bills, not with money bill. Lok Sabha may send the bill to Rajya Sabha for reconsideration. No, not required. The president may call for a joint sitting for passing the bill. This is for ordinary bill. So you have to read all the options before you mark the answer. Though you are 99.99% sure, because the success and failure difference is two or three questions in this exam. If three questions means 3 into 2, 6 marks. If you don't mark them, you get, what is that? 1/3, 2/3 mark. 6, 2 by 3. This is what is the mark you are going to get. 6 plus 2 by 3. At a 6 point, somewhere 6, 7 marks you are going to gain. So if someone got 100, if you got 106.67, your name will be in the list. So that's why these three questions becomes very much important. Next is, with reference to Legislative Assembly of a state in India, consider the following statements. Legislative Assembly is asking for. Again, it's a two-statement question. The governor makes a customary address in the first session of the year. Yes, president in the case of the parliament, governor addresses the first session. When a state legislature does not have a rule on a particular matter, it follows the Lok Sabha. Now see, state legislature and Lok Sabha, these are two independent bodies. They are not related to each other. They are sovereign in their own right. They don't need to follow each other. So they will make their own decisions. They don't need to depend or take advice from Lok Sabha. So that's why second statement is wrong. So answer is 1. Now, this kind of questions, the previous question, if you observe, go to the principle level. The federalism is the principle which is applying. In the case of that federalism, the legislative responsibility legislatures are independent from each other with regard to the subject matters are organizing or managing themselves. Even it is the case with judiciary. The Supreme Court is independently managed, High Courts are independently managed. Supreme Court has no administrative jurisdiction over the High Courts, though it is an integrated judiciary. See carefully, the Supreme Court do not have administrative jurisdiction of the High Courts. Who has the administrative jurisdiction of the High Courts? That is the Chief Justice of the concerned High Court. Who has the administrative jurisdiction of the Supreme Court? That is the Chief Justice of India. Now, which of the following statements is correct? Is asking for correct statement. It's a single statement, single answer question. Now, same person cannot be appointed as a governor for two or more states at the same time. Wrong. The 7th Constitutional Amendment Act has made it possible. You know, Governor Narasimhan, who acted as a governor for AP and Telangana. The judges of the High Court of the states in India are appointed by the governors of the state, just as the judges of Supreme Court are appointed by the president. You know that judges of the Supreme Court or High Court, they are appointed by the President of India. In the process of the High Court, he consults the governor of the state and also the Chief Justice of the High Court. So this is a wrong statement. Now, no procedure has been laid out in the Constitution of India for the removal of governor from his or her post. Now, it's true. In case of Union Territory, having legislative setup, the Chief Minister is appointed by the legislative Lieutenant Governor on the basis of majority support. See carefully. Union Territory which has a legislative setup, the Chief Minister is appointed by the Lieutenant Governor on the basis of majority support. Now, this is a true to you or not? See carefully. So C appears to be true. D also appears to be true for me. Why? No procedure has been laid down in the Constitution for the removal of his or her post. Union Territory, let's take Delhi. Who has to appoint the Chief Minister? Who has to conduct the oath of office to the chief minister? Obviously, the lieutenant governor. But on the basis of majority support. Majority support where? In the state legislative assembly. This is an incomplete statement for me. Majority support of MLAs. If you have made such a statement, majority support means majority people support? I don't know. So that's why I consider this statement as some incomplete, so I went through this. But by and large, both statements are close. But there is some incompletion in this statement. But if you go through this statement, there is a conflict. Governor enjoys the office or during the pleasure of the President of India. So what is meant by this pleasure of the President? How this pleasure has to be exercised is not mentioned clearly in the Constitution. That's why it's a grey area. Now, with reference to the Constitution of India, let's do some questions in judiciary. What did I tell you on judiciary, sir? So peripheral areas are also important in judiciary, like tribunals, lok adalats, gram nyayalayas, all these are important. Now, no high court shall have the jurisdiction to declare any central law to be constitutionally invalid. High courts also can declare central laws as constitutionally invalid because these are also the constitutional courts. An amendment to the Constitution of India cannot be called into question by the Supreme Court. No. Every constitutional amendment can come under judicial review. If they violate the basic structure of the Constitution, they can be declared as null and void. Now, if you see NJAC, it has amended Article 124. It has come into question before the judiciary. It is declared as null and void because this is violating the basic structure of independence of judiciary. So answer is neither one nor two. How is the National Green Tribunal is different from National Pollution Control Board? Now see this question carefully. So the NGT was established in that year newly. So NGT has overlapping functions with CPCB. Because CPCB, Pollution Control Board, also has quasi-judicial functions. So how these are different from each other? One is tribunal, another one is an executive body. What is the difference between a tribunal and executive body? This is what is indirectly the question was. So in those days, certain functions of CPCB went to NGT. This is what is the question which is controversial. So you need to look into the controversy. So what is the difference between a tribunal and CPCB, which is an executive body? If you know, you can answer this question. Now, what is the answer? NGT has been established by an act, whereas CPCB created by executive order. Actually, look, Pollution Control Board is also created by the law of the Parliament. So it is institution-wise establishment. Both of them are by the law. NGT provides environmental justice, burden of litigation in the higher courts. CPCB promotes the cleanliness. Yes. So CPCB is more an executive body. This is the executive function. This function is the function of a tribunal. So that's why, so the NGT is a tribunal. CPCB is an executive body, enforcement authority. So these two are important. So this is the difference which has been explained. That's the right statement. So any institution, when you talk about, it is a constitutional body, statutory body, or executive body. These points we need to know first. And the next is, you need to go what is the difference between them, which is the most important thing. That is what we need to understand. Next is, let's go to the next thing, that is, in India, judicial review implies. What is judicial review? So making sure that any law or order of an executive is in accordance with the constitution. That is the judicial review. So it is the proper pronounce on the constitutionality of the laws and executive orders. Exactly, that is the definition. Power of the judiciary to question the wisdom of the laws enacted? No. The judicial review is not a negative function. Remember carefully. The judiciary has to take the legislature in positive confidence. And unless someone takes the matter to the judiciary, it will not look into it. So this statement is wrong. So the power of judiciary to review all the legislative enactments? No. Unless someone has to take that, then only it goes up. Judiciary is not going to check all the laws. Judiciary is not going to look into every law made by the legislature. It takes the law in a good spirit. It means that every law is constitutional unless proven otherwise. So to make that, it means when a case is filed in the Supreme Court, you have to prove that law is not constitutional. The judiciary will not automatically assume that the law is unconstitutional. So the judiciary's auto mode is every law is constitutional. It has to be proven beyond doubt that it is not constitutional. So it means the person who is challenging the law, he has to prove that it is not constitutional. Then only it will declare it as unconstitutional. Now, in judiciary this year, the post-retirement postings of the judges can be a question. You know that Justice Ranjan Gogoi issue is become very controversial, being appointed as MP Rajya Sabha. And when Mr. Sadashivan, the Chief Justice of India, he was appointed as Governor of Kerala, that also has become controversial. So in this context, post-retirement appointment of judges, this is what is going to be a big question. Political appointment. There is no restriction on the political appointments. The power of judiciary to review its own judgments. This is actually, we call it as revisionary jurisdiction. So answer is A. Though I know the answer as A, I have a responsibility to read to B, C, D. What is the provision to safeguard the autonomy of Supreme Court of India? What are the safeguards? So let us check this. So Article 124, what it says? When you appoint the judges of the Supreme Court, consult the President. President of India consult the CJI. So this word consult itself has given, interpretation of the consult has given rise to what? What does that it has given rise to? Collegium. So this statement is right. This is meant to maintain independence. The Supreme Court judges can be removed by the Chief Justice of India only. No, they are removed actually by the Parliament. The salaries of the judges are charged on the Consolidation Fund of India. Yes. So it means they do not worry about their salaries and their maintenance, which is meant to be independent. All appointment of the officers of the Supreme Court of India are made by the government only after consulting the Chief Justice of India. So the court itself can make its appointments. Now, in this case, what is the answer? Only is wrong. Answer is 1 and 3. Supreme Court makes its own appointments. So they are paid from the law ministry, but the appointments are made by the Supreme Court of its officers. Answer is, this is a wrong statement. Obviously 1 and 3 are the right statements. Now amendments. What are the recent amendments which are there in the news? That can be a question. Now, what are the most famous amendments of the Constitution can be a question. Now, in this case, in our current affairs classes, that is acts and bills, we are going to talk about the latest amendment acts. Along with that, popular amendment acts, I will ask them to make a video in material of amendment acts that are very popular. So which are the 42nd Amendment Act, 44th Amendment Act, like that, 61st. So what all these amendment acts we will try to know. Over and above 99, 100, 101, 102, 103. So these are very much in the news. We need to know about those amendment acts. Next is, what is the question over here? The 44th Amendment of introduced an article placing the election of the Prime Minister beyond judicial review. No. No, because the Prime Minister of India is appointed by the President of India, who is the legislative leader of a particular party which has got the majority on the floor of the House. Next, Supreme Court of India struck down 99th Constitutional Amendment Act. Yes, it is NJAC. It was struck down on the grounds that it is violative of the independence of judiciary. Yes, the second statement is right. He is asking for correct statements. Now, let us see further these questions. Now, amendment to the Constitution of India can be initiated by an introduction of a bill in the Lok Sabha only. Constitutional amendment can be introduced in both Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So it is a wrong statement, yes or no? If such an amendment seeks to make changes to the federal character of the Constitution, the amendment also requires to be ratified by the legislature of all the states. No, 50% of the states, not just legislature, it is only legislative assembly. 50% of the state legislative assembly has to ratify that with what majority? Simple majority. So obviously,
Is this statement right or wrong? Wrong. What he is asking for? Correct statements. Both of them being wrong, neither one nor two is the answer. Now let us see this question related to local governments. Let me make a small statement. Which are the compulsory provisions in 73rd, 74th Amendment Act? Which are non-compulsory provisions where discretion exists to the state legislature? In this non-compulsory provisions, functions, finances, functionaries. Remember 3Fs which are most tested. And these compulsory provisions, and in this case, uniformity of legislative structures. And then what else we have? Certain institutions have come up, uniformity in elections. These are all the things you need to understand. And local government institutions, state election commissioner. In Andhra Pradesh, state election commissioner has become controversial. You need to look into that. And he has the powers equivalent to the judge of an high court. State Finance Commission. And we also have certain other institutions like Metropolitan Planning Committee and then District Planning Committee. So you need to know about these particular institutions which are there in the news. Now, the minimum age prescribed for any person to be a member of Panchayat is 25 years. Is that true? So it is actually 21 years. This is a wrong statement. The Panchayat reconstituted after premature dissolution continues only for the remainder period. Yes. Let's take a Panchayat is dissolved after 3 years. The newly constituted Panchayat after 6 months of the election will be there in power for the remaining 1.5 period. 3 years it is dissolved. Within 6 months the election was conducted. 3 years 6 months is over. The remaining 1.5 year it will be in operation. That is the true statement. So, in case of the local governments, you focus on what are shall, which are must performed by the state law, and what are the discretion of the state legislature. That is one thing on 73rd, 74th Amendment Act. The next is Grama Sabha powers under PISA Act, and then Forest Rights Act and what are the provisions and Grama Sabha powers. Please look into this. In Jharkhand, this entire PISA Act was very much in the news. So there is one group which has come up. So this group has publicized this PISA Act. So they are going to keep the plaques before the entry of every village. Just exactly don't remember the name, recollect the name just now. But PISA Act they have publicized. That's how it become very much news. Now, as I said to you, PISA Act will be very much important. No? Which of the powers of the Grama Sabha in PISA Act? So the powers of Grama Sabha under PISA Act, and then PISA Act and Forest Rights Act. What are the overlapping functions? This can be a question. Long time I'm expecting a question on this. Forest Rights Act and PISA Act overlapping functions. In this case, Grama Sabha has the power to prevent alienation of the land in scheduled areas? Yes. Has the ownership of the minor forest produce? Yes. Is required for granting prospecting license or mining lease for any mineral. It is not any mineral. Only in the case of minor minerals, Grama Sabha permission is necessary, not in the case of every mineral. The third statement is wrong. Answer is B only. 1 and 2. This is B. B only. The next is federalism questions. So federalism questions, the most important area they look at is what are the institutions of federalism? And the second, what are the committees on federalism? And the third thing, which are the federal features of Indian Constitution? Which are the unitary features of Indian Constitution? If you remember these three things, this topic is very easy. Now, see the question. Which one of the following suggested that the governor should be an eminent person from outside the state, should be detached figure without the intense political connects or links, and should not have taken part in politics in the recent past? So to make the governor apolitical, these are the recommendations which are made. These recommendations were later touched by various other committees. For the first time, it was made by Sarkaria Commission in 1983. And later, Punchi Commission also has spoken again about this. But Sarkaria Commission is the one which made these exact wordings. Which of the following is not a feature of Indian federalism? Not a feature of Indian federalism. I said to you, now, There is an independent judiciary, true. Powers are divided between the center and the states, true. The federating units have been given unequal representation in the Rajya Sabha, true. That's why Indian federalism is called asymmetrical federalism. It is the result of an agreement, no. American Constitution. We need to talk about coming together federalisms and holding together federalisms. The Indian Constitution is a holding together federalism. US is an example for coming together federalisms. There we have agreement. Here we don't have. Answer is D. It is not a feature. That's why answer is D. Elections. Now, I mean, these areas are no more they are testing, but however, just we will do this. The election of Commission of India is a 5-member body. No, there is no such a fixed numbers. So he's asking for correct statements. Obviously, first statement is wrong. So, second, if I know second or third statements, Union Ministry of Home Affairs decides the election schedule for the conduct. No, it is the responsibility of Election Commission. It's a wrong statement. Election Commission resolves the disputes relating to splits mergers. Yes, that's why Election Commission's powers have increased. AIADMK or Telugu Desam party, when they split, which is the original faction, that is the responsibility of Election Commission. 3 only is the answer. So actually I see this as a question not related to election, but related to Election Commission and its powers and functions. This is actually a question related to constitutional bodies, that is Election Commission. Next is done. We have practiced certain questions today. Now, what you have to read to maximize? So, anyhow, you have regularly read Lakshmikant, that is the standard textbook, and then Ready Reckoner is updated and made perfect for you. I think what I will put as mistakes are very less. If you have any mistake, you can bring it to our notice. You can WhatsApp to it saying that it is Polity Ready Reckoner, and we will correct it and we will explain it to you. But 99.9% we have reviewed it twice, thrice, etc. If anything we missed, please report to us. Because this Ready Reckoner is prepared to simplify and revise Lakshmikant. So that Ready Reckoner will definitely help you. Next, LAEX Polity Current Affairs. You are given acts and bills, and you are going to get Supreme Court judgment soon. So whatever is the current affairs which are given to you, you can go through that. Previous year's questions, these are been given as a booklet to you. Please go through these previous year's questions, and practice questions are also provided to you. Please go through this, practice these questions. So please do these 5 activities. These 5 materials are readily available.